Hi everyone, I'm here with Scott Jurek for a special interview for Love Talk. Actually, we're recording this interview for the second time because the first time we didn't get any sound. So Scott, thank you for being so patient with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, and no worries.
All right. So, Scott, I've been following you for a while. I first got to know about you when I read Born to Run, and then I read your book, Eat and Run. And it's an absolute pleasure and privilege for me to be speaking to you. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, it's an honor to be here.
Great. So let's go for this first question. First thing is, I think, why do you run and why do you keep on running? What's the motivation behind the running all these years?
I mean, for me, it's really become part of my lifestyle. I mean, I obviously have run, to win races. It's become like a career for me. I ran obviously to stay in shape, and there's the health benefits, and there's so many components. But at the end of the day, it really is about a lifestyle. It's like sleeping, and at night. It's just a part of my routine, and it kind of makes me feel like a better person, not only, mentally and physically, but just, deep down. I think there's this desire in humans to move our bodies, and, running is that vehicle for me. And running's been a vehicle of, exploring who I am on a deeper level. And, I've just learned so much from the sport, and it's embedded in me. And now it's an important part of my life.
That's great. Now, for people who are novices at running and they want to increase their mileage, they only do a couple of miles at a time when they run. What's the best way to do it?
I think the most important thing is to keep it fun and find ways to keep one motivated. I always recommend, try finding a group that you can run with, whether it's a running club or a local running shop, once or twice a week. Connect with them, run with them, because you can run with people who are faster than you, people who are slower than you. Just getting out of your normal routine. Sometimes people kind of just lock into their normal mileage, their normal pace, and it becomes monotonous and sometimes boring. So I think kind of bringing some new elements to the routine is really key. And whether that's a training buddy you meet once a week, or it's your dog that you run with. I mean, find ways to keep you motivated, because even folks like me, have been running for ultra marathons for 20 years. There are days where it's hard to get out and train when it's raining and it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So it's key to have little things that kind of keep you motivated, and having goals too that you're training for. Whether it's your first 5K or whether it's your first marathon or half marathon or ultra marathon.
Absolutely. So, reading your book, Eat and Run, I could see that you went through a lot of challenges in life, personal challenges, difficult situations. How does running help you cope and overcome situations like that in life?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing ultramarathoning has taught me is to be adaptable, to be able to think on my feet, so to speak, to not always look at adversity and challenge as something that's just totally impossible to overcome. It's really putting a different twist on, I guess, a situation that just seems, like I'm never going to get through this, or, how can I ever make it through this difficult situation? And ultramarathoning really, forces me to if I want to get to that finish line, or if I want to win a race, or if I want to catch that person ahead of me, I have to find that inner strength and be able to dig deep. And I think that's what's been indispensable in life too, because life comes with a lot of adversity and challenges. I mean, it's never easy from start to finish, and neither is an ultramarathon. So, and it goes both ways. I've learned a ton from life that has helped prepare me to be a better ultramarathon. My mother had multiple sclerosis for over 30 years, and as a young child, had a mother who couldn't do the simple tasks of moving her body like a lot of mothers do. So it's dealing with an adversity like that has prepared me for doing these crazy races, like running through Death Valley at 135 miles, or running across Greece from Athens to Sparta 153 miles. It's really prepared me for what I've done in my sport.
That's great. Now, there's a lot of people who say, look, I'm too busy with family and work and I can't fit running into my schedule. I have kids to look after. What's the secret? How do you do it? What's the best way to fit running into their work schedule, their life?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is, dedicating time. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I mean, I'm trying to do a million things all the time. Running isn't like I just don't get to be an athlete full time. I've always had to manage a job. So I'm not coming from this as an elite athlete who just trains 4 or 5 hours a day. I've had to manage. And the biggest thing I think is being on the same page and communicating with your partner and your family and your friends and say, hey, this is an important thing for me. And, always try to keep the balance. Like I have individuals and friends that I know who've been training for ultramarathons and they literally run 30 miles a week. They get out for long runs, maybe every other weekend. They're not winning races, but for them, their goal is just to be out there, just basically competing and doing the challenge that then the goal that they have. So you have to be putting it in perspective. You can't be training 40 hours a week if your goal is just to finish a race. That's not fair to your family, and you're probably not going to be able to do that. But if you can find that balance and make sure that you're keeping a balance with your friends, your family, and still doing the thing that you love. And it constantly has to change. There are days when I might have planned to do a really big long run, but if something comes up, family, work, you have to adjust that. And that's what it really is all about, being adaptable and adjusting to things and keeping an open line of communications between your family and friends.
Right. Now, how does your wife Jenny support you in case you're a little bit too stressed or things aren't going that well for you? How does she support you to keep going?
I think the biggest thing she's done for me is she's kept life fun, and she knows how to put a positive twist on things. She makes me laugh. She also understands, what I'm doing, and I think that's key. Like you don't have to have a partner or a significant other or family member that does the sport that you do, but they just have to understand and get what you might be going through. And I think that comes with time, and it comes with experience. But she, Jenny knows how to read me, and I think it's being in sync together that's really key. And I think that's key to obviously winning a race and her supporting and crewing for me. But it's also key in life, and being a strong relationship involves that being in sync and in synergy with each other. And it doesn't always go perfect. I mean, I'll be honest, it takes a lot of work on both ends, and I'm still learning. I'm definitely not an expert.
Sure, but absolutely, what you said now is very important, because reading each other, because my wife doesn't run at all, but if I'm stressed, she tells me, listen, you need to go for a run because you're stressed out, you're making my life a little bit more difficult, so go and run, and then we'll talk when you come back. It always helps, right? So if she doesn't run, but she understands how it helps you, it helps both of you.
Yes, definitely. And I think that's key too, because I have friends, and I talk to people all the time, and they're like, oh, my significant other, my spouse doesn't really understand why I run. They don't get it. And I think, like you said, it's really about understanding this is an important thing. This makes me a better person. And if they start to understand that more, I think they'll be a little bit more forgiving when it's like, okay, why are you taking off for an hour or 2 hours? And again, you got to keep it in balance, though.
Yeah.
And there are times where, again, I cut runs short or change my training plans based on what family or work needs bring up. So life is about it being adaptable, and open lines of communication and being in sync with each other is key.
That's great. Okay, Scott, thank you so much for being patient for the second recording now.
Yeah, no worries. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad it all worked out.
Absolutely. It's like ultra marathoning, right? You need to keep going, and we made it the second time.
Exactly.
Second time
and being adaptable.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And for those watching at home and who have relationship, work, like everybody else, if you can fit running into your lifestyle, then anybody else can. I think anybody can do it, right?
Definitely. And like I said, I don't get to be a professional athlete 8 hours a day. It's really about doing all the other components. And I've always had a job. I've always been, focused on other things. So it's really, you become a better person if you have those other elements. And I think my running has been better too, because if I had the opportunity to run, 6 hours a day, and that's where overtraining can sometimes result. So it's really about keeping that balance and being encouraged to do things that balance life, balance your training.
Okay, so that's great. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're
you.
going back to the studio.